Hi, my name is Stephanie. I'd like to welcome you all to 5 Keys to Great Employee Self-Service. Also, I want to remind everyone that you are muted for the duration of our event today. So if you have any questions, you can use the Q&A panel located on the right-hand side of the window. I am recording the event today, and the recording link, as well as a link to the slides, will be sent to you no later than tomorrow. So at this time, I'd like to turn it over to Don Casson, CEO of Evergreen Systems.
Thank you, Stephanie. Hi, this is Don, and with me today is Jeff Benedict, who heads up our ITSM practice. Unfortunately for Jeff, he's a little bit under the weather with a head cold, but I'm sure he will persevere. If you're new to our webinar series, welcome. If you're a past attendee, thanks for joining us again. Our goal is to share valuable information and insights you can use in your planning and activities right now. The question we'll explore today is, what are the 5 keys to great employee self-service? So here's our agenda. After just a very little bit about Evergreen, we'll explore those 5 key principles and how you can apply them today. Beyond that, we'll briefly demonstrate our always evolving view of an advanced user-centric self-service experience built on ServiceNow, and then we'll answer some questions if you have any. At any time during the webinar, as Stephanie mentioned, you can submit a question using the Q&A function. So here's a little bit about Evergreen. Evergreen is a U.S.-based consulting firm, and we've worked with hundreds of mid-market and Fortune 1000 companies over the past 17 years. Our focus has been in improving their IT service management execution. We're a full lifecycle firm, or as one customer put it, you have both process and technology in the same company. We are one of the leading ServiceNow partners in the U.S. and have over a decade of domain experience in every area of the ServiceNow portfolio. But we have a particularly heavy focus on customer-centric IT service management. At Evergreen, we think conventional ITSM wisdom is basically wrong. For the most part, ITSM has been done the same old way for the past decade. Incident, problem, change, and a little bit of knowledge. At the end of it, we may be running a little bit better, but so what? What about the customer? Are we really making a difference in their lives? Are we delivering them any more value? Are we waiting until phase 3 to even think about them? This whole model is broken. We need to start with the customer in phase 1. If you haven't already, we think now is the time. For the past 2 years, we've been working very hard on exactly this, focusing from the customer in, not from IT out. Our inspirations have been Apple, Amazon, and Google, to name a few. We see both IT and the customer's experience evolving hand in hand from the start, not as an afterthought. On the left side of the slide, we see IT maturing, going from silos of service IT activities to delivering actual IT services, and then ultimately to being the engine behind the delivery of any service. On the right-hand side, the customer experience is evolving as well, from what maybe isn't very good in most cases today, to being able to access a thoughtful and a complete portfolio of IT services, and then ultimately being empowered by a true digital workspace which drives their productivity and creativity. So let's dive in. Here's our first key: know why you're doing it. In life, the biggest obstacles are often the ones we don't even see. What don't we see in IT? We often don't see it from other than our perspective, from IT's perspective. Here's an example. In this past month, I was in a meeting with a client, and an IT director insisted that we needed to tell the customer the percentage of system availability for the email service so we could show them how well we were doing. When I said they don't care, he asked me, well, what do they want? And I said, it's simple, for it to be fast and working whenever they need it. That is just plain expected by the customer. And it's just like Amazon Prime, which those of you know me, I love Amazon Prime. Free shipping, 2 days, door to door. None of us care or even want to know whether it goes through St. Louis or San Antonio. We expect it to be delivered in 2 days every time, period. So what is your goal? Why are you doing this? Is it to take work off of IT, to automate or eliminate common recurring requests and queries? If so, it will probably fail. These are great outcomes if they can be delivered as part of a goal that is customer-centric first. How about this? I'll give you an idea for a possible 2-part goal. 1, use technology to delight, inspire, and empower our customers to achieve their highest potential Part 2, while also simplifying, improving, automating, and eliminating work in IT. We call this balanced design. Give the customer what they want to get what we need. So what are your design inspirations? Inspirations should be visual and textual images that help keep you focused on your goal. Here are 3 Amazon top principles. Again, I love that company. Customer obsession, ownership, and invent and simplify. There are more, but those 3 sound pretty good. Who has a customer experience that is astounding out there in the marketplace? One I like is a company called HubSpot, the inbound marketing SaaS company. They have a marketing enablement platform, but that's not what they do. What they do every day is teach their customers how to be better marketers. Find ones that inspire you and align with your goals. Last, how do you see customers using it? And visualizing this will help keep you focused on your customers' needs, not your needs, and ensuring your services, whatever they are complete. Think of web experiences you love and why. Have examples you can go to when you hit obstacles so you can get through them. So our second key here is to create a complete service experience. A complete service experience is the only one that customers will love. It's one that delights the customer start to finish over and over and over again. In the next couple of slides, I'm going to show you exactly how you can engineer complete services experiences. Designing for sustainability means building to last. It's the ability to deliver and evolve a service over its useful life, to deliver it thousands or tens of thousands of times with consistent high quality. Teaming with your customer is really simple, but it is very hard for IT to do. When you start, we recommend putting a few customers on your team day one and keep them there, just like you would your developer, administrator, or project manager. I know that sounds kind of crazy, and we're not used to it, and it doesn't matter what level they are or what they do, as much as their personal commitment to excellence and a real desire to make things better. I don't know if you know this, if you follow Apple or not, but Apple just recorded a $17 billion quarterly profit, the highest quarterly profit by any company in history. Amazing. Beauty matters. Customers loving your product matters. Ask Apple. A lot of you have or may eventually use ServiceNow. It's a great flexible platform. This is on the left-hand side. This is what the end user experience looks like out of the box versus what we do. It is very functional, but it looks like it was designed by IT engineers. Like the eye doctor says during an examination, this or this, which is better? Which might your customer prefer? So now we're going to look at the complete service experience. How do we create this? Doing so, it's important to recognize, involves 3 constituencies: customers, providers, and managers. All must be involved and have their needs met to create any viable service. We know IT wants to deliver great services their customers will love, but also have accountability, governance, speed, and quality of service. To achieve these goals, Evergreen follows an approach we call balanced design, which I mentioned. If we design for the customer the way they love it and want to use it, we can also get what we want and have it driven by the customer's own self-service actions. What is at the heart of each constituent's needs? We believe for the customer, it is customer experience. For the provider, execution effectiveness, and for the managers, governance and accountability. When creating new services end-to-end, it's very easy to get lost in the activity, so you can't see the forest for the trees. This is where core simple design principles like the ones we have laid out here can help you steer a true course. And these are what we use when we work with our customers. Up here under customer experience, we have 5 principles. You often find when using them, they're dynamic. One stresses the other, creating a tension that improves the outcome. As an example, you can see how simple and complete might sometimes fight with each other. Here they are at a high level. Simple is just that. Keep it simple as absolutely possible at every point. Beautiful, well, you could say that beauty is subjective. It's in the eye of the beholder. So it helps to think of beauty as more than aesthetically pleasing. Think of it in terms of the complete experience. Is the complete experience beautiful? Complete means that the experience is complete at any given point, on any single screen, at any interaction, or in its entirety. It has everything you need. Being predictive means anticipating what the customer might want and providing it, and leading means never letting the customer flounder, but lead them step by step from start to finish. For the provider, it's execution effectiveness. Our focus is to simplify, automate, or eliminate IT work by putting it in the hands of the customer via self-service. Our target is high-volume, repetitive manual work we do across IT silos today, sort of the 80-20 stuff. We identify it, simplify, re-engineer it, and then automate it. It's smart to create simple, reusable building block services and then manage them as CIs, configuration items. Examples could include a manager approval, a financial authorization, check inventory, validate identity, any kind of little sub-services. And I would say last but not last, we think about what the customer really needs, or we should, and create some standard packages or Happy Meals. Customers don't want 20 options. They want 2 or 3 good ones. They really want us to guide them, which also makes things a lot easier for us. The managers care about governance and accountability, or what translates in the ability to deliver the service safely with consistent quality over time. If we consider the KPIs and metrics that matter regarding visibility, quality, cost, and value, when we're designing the service rather than later as an afterthought, we can bake them right into the delivery motion. This way we can get the same set of benefits we're getting in execution effectiveness and go a long way towards automating even governance and accountability. Here's my last point on the second key, and I call this the customer-provider ballet. And as we mentioned, that the experience is end-to-end, start to finish, high quality across the whole thing. The heart of success in building this is the interplay between the providers and the customers every step of the way. There's no way it can be just good for one or the other. Both have to benefit or it will fail. If we go to the grassroots level with the providers and really simplify and improve how the work gets done, then they will love it too, and they will lead the customers to the new way of doing business together because it's better for both of them, thereby overcoming the big challenge of change resistance together. This ballet gets better and better as we work on it. By doing this, we can also help change IT to focus on our customers and better deliver great services. So now we're going to look at our third key. It's to identify the services your customers want. Excuse me. We want to begin with the basics, and that starts with something as simple as a beautiful, intuitive customer self-service portal. Do your customers have one? If they don't, and many don't, that can be a very significant improvement in the eyes of your customer just on its own. Even without a service catalog and goods and services you can access, being able to come to one place and self-service your day in, day out interactions with IT in a logical and easy way is a very powerful thing. Basics include being able to review and update my profile and preferences, making a request, approving a request, checking the status of my items, seeing what's happening or being discussed, and reporting a problem or asking for help. All good basic things. If this is difficult, fragmented, or confusing for your customers today, you have a simple and great opportunity for improvement by beginning with the basics. Now we want to dig a little deeper, and we want to identify, we want to mine some things here beyond the self-service portal, beyond the basics. What might be of value to your customers? We often hear, where do we start? There's a simple way to begin. Keep in mind the 80-20 principle that 80% of the services you want to provide can be found in 20% of the total number. And starting out, we're looking for the higher volume, repetitive tasks that IT does day in, day out. So we start by mining the data you have. What are the top 5 incidents or the top 10 incidents by volume? If any one is a combination of a couple of scenarios, is there a common thread to them? What is the true root cause, not the how, but the why that something failed, that the incident occurred? or of an individual incident or even a group of incidents. Once we understand this, now we look to eliminate or automate. Is there a change we can make in our standard processes that would eliminate that root cause? Is it a cost or benefit consideration? If we can't eliminate it, can we automate some or all of the repair or restoration of service activities and put them in the hands of the customer through self-service? Now, apply that same line of thinking to the top 10 requests and the top 10 how do I kinds of queries you get. You can imagine that a fair amount of stuff might come out of that. But what if you don't know these? It's not that unusual. It can happen, but you can still make progress. Be a detective. Go interview level 1 folks and go interview some customers. Even if you do have the top 10, this is still a good exercise and it doesn't take that much time. For level 1, here's some questions you might ask. What are the top repetitive items you deal with day in, day out? What's the most frustrating thing you have to deal with? What is the most enjoyable part of your workday? What do you think customers want that we are not paying attention to? What's the dumbest problem we haven't fixed yet? And if you had a magic wand, what would you change? You can get a lot of information from those questions. For the customers, you might ask, what do you like best about IT? Why? What do you like least about IT and why? If you could name 3 things that IT could do to make your work life better, what might they be? What's your favorite customer experience? And if you had a magic wand? You can see you could get a lot of information from these questions. Now let's talk about captive services. These are things your customer has to come to you for, like identity management, or passwords, or logins. They are magic because they're sticky. As you improve what you do for them every day, they notice. And at some point in this evolution, it changes from having to come to the portal to wanting to come. So are you worried at all about shadow IT and changing the perception of IT in your customers' eyes? Then start by re-engineering your sticky services and make them terrific. Don't see the customer as your captive, but see this instead as a magic lever to change your relationship with them. Our 4th key is following a consistent service design approach. This is key to all the constituents, customers, providers, and managers. Imagine what Amazon would be like without it. The customer experience for buying electronics might be great, while that for buying sneakers could be terrible. The customer verdict, it's all terrible. The same holds true for the providers, with the outcome being inconsistent execution, and also for the managers, with the outcome being inconsistent quality. So here's an example of a service we have in a catalog we call private token access, which might be requestable via self-service. On the left-hand side is the core information we need to provide to the customer with one primary goal. So he or she can make an informed self-service decision as to whether or not the service is something they want or need. Here's an example of an item you can purchase in the catalog, business cards. Typically, a request item like this has a price, gives the customer the ability to make a self-service purchase decision, configure it to their needs, place their order, all through self-service. This is also a good example of balanced design. Give them what they want to get, give them what they want to get what you need. In the past, someone might have manually taken this order from the customer, then manually placed it with the provider. All of that can pretty easily be automated and driven by self-service. Our 5th and last key, own the service. Once you create a great service, it has to stay great. It has to deliver the same exact high-quality outcome every time, thousands or tens of thousands of times. In order for that to happen, someone has to own it, to care about it, control it, improve it, simplify it, even to end it if its useful life is done. It's good to start simply and put in place a small number of measures and KPIs that will allow us to make a judgment as to the quality, consistency, and value of the service as delivered. And we could look at those monthly as a start, and then develop the pattern that makes sense for us as we go forward. This should include surveying the customer on a sample basis, or even better, make it easy for the customer to rate the service and provide social feedback on the quality. you can see down here that both Jeff and I rated the SAP Financial Service. Apparently, he didn't need help figuring out how to use it like I did. So here are the summary key takeaways we hope will be of value to you as you build or improve your self-service experiences. Have a clear picture of what you want. Give the customer what they want to get what IT needs. Create a complete service experience. Think end to end. Any other experience will likely end in failure. Build services your customers want. While this sounds obvious, it isn't always, since we often don't really know what the customer wants. Follow the process we talked about here and find out. Establish and follow a consistent design process. If you don't, you will likely get lost in the process, lose control of the process, and build services of inconsistent quality. Last, own the service. It's the only way to deliver high-quality services consistently over time. So now we're going to switch gears, and we'll turn it over to Jeff, and he's going to give you a brief update on what we're doing in the Employee Self-Service Portal.
Thank you, Don. Hopefully you see my screen here. So where I want to kind of start is, and I've started other webinars with this before, I just want to kind of point out, what we see often from other customers of ours, that this is an actual real ServiceNow request form that kind of highlights the perspective of a provider versus the customer. So if I scroll through this form, you'll see that there are a lot of different options. And so if I were a consumer of this particular form, I would likely get overwhelmed, and I may even give up and ultimately contact my buddy in IT to get information about how to submit this. And so we see this quite a bit where the interface of the customer is really focused more on the fulfiller than it is on kind of the customer's needs. And so we want to make sure the goal here is to make it as easy on the customer as can be, and therefore kind of satisfying that customer-centric goal. So let me show you kind of an example, our self-service portal example we've created. This portal leverages a Windows kind of Metro-style layout, and the way it can also indicate additional information. So as I hover over these different items, you'll see I get more information about get help or request service. You'll see another example here in this portal where we're kind of prescribing or pushing messages to our consumers with news alerts, whether that be informational or whether it could also be outages and service impacts that we're trying to promote or push to our consumers. The other thing I want to point out with this, and this is becoming more of a trend that we're seeing, is that more and more of our customers are focusing on a mobile-first or a mobile-friendly kind of solution. So you'll see this is a responsive framework, and all the pages within this portal are set up responsively. So as you can see, my menu went away, but I have my menu off canvas here. And it's also bound to kind of events or swipe events left and right to be able to reveal that, kind of a common experience that most customers are familiar with. The other thing I'd like to mention with this is we did build this as kind of a framework, so you will see like tables behind the scenes for these navigation tiles that define kind of where you go when you click on what information shows up, as well as the behavior of whether it's a flip or some hover information. As a customer, I might, look into the portal to get help and empower me to do my job function. So on this page, I can ask for help, but I can also look for answers myself by looking at some of what's popular, what's trending. I can also do kind of a quick search for, say, something that's related to settings, find a knowledge article that's related to that. Maybe this ultimately solves my problem, and I can say, yep, this is helpful, and it did solve my problem. You'll also notice that this page itself does adapt to the size of the display responsively, much like, as I mentioned, the other pages within this portal do as well. Much of the power of any IT customer portal, can come from the shopping experience and where the customer can request these goods and services. And we want it to be, intuitive, customer-centric. The shopping experience here starts with browsing through the high-level categories of items. So I can look through, say, employee events, maybe add a name change request to my cart. Maybe I want to add something else in here as well. Maybe I want to request a new desktop, so I can add this to my cart. Right, kind of common shopping experience. I can do a continue shopping, and ultimately when I'm ready to check out, I can come to my checkout page and place my order. The other way in which I can get either knowledge information or items in which to request is kind of through a consolidated search. So you'll see when I search for something like email, I'm getting kind of the highest rated items across my things I can request, my knowledge articles, as well as my defined business services. And like more and more items out or pages or sites out that you interact with, you get your results and you have ways to kind of slide or adjust the output. So I can kind of, hide my catalog items, I can hide business services, and ultimately kind of slice and dice to find the records or the answers I'm looking for. On the knowledge page, I get a summary of kind of articles by different topics. And what I wanted to highlight here is that the experience is consistent. So as I go through and look at items that are related to policies, I'm kind of brought into the same search results, same kind of experience, so that my experience in the portal is similar in the way in which I look at items, the way I look at knowledge articles, and the way in which I search and interact with those lists of data. So obviously one of the things the customer is going to expect is the ability to see the status of their requests as well as kind of interact with those requests and incidents. So on our status screen, the things you'll see here is that you have kind of a consolidated list of records. So I've got all incidents, requests, and approvals, open incidents, requests, and approvals for me, and I can slice and dice. If I want to just look at my approval records, I can look at that. If I want to look at approvals and incidents, I can look at that. Or if I want to look at all. I can also toggle open and closed. And then the other thing you'll see here is based off the item, I may have different information presented to me. This one has a different workflow and how it's fulfilled than that of, say, an employee name change that has a different workflow. And I can kind of see where it's at in its progress, as well as see when I should expect this to be completed. The other thing you'll notice here is that there's interactions that are kind of, or actions the user can perform on these records, right? I can approve and deny items awaiting my approval. Also, if an item was recently resolved, it's asking me for confirmation of my resolution. So I can say, no, I'm not satisfied, push information back to the fulfiller, say I'm not satisfied, and kind of start the active workflow of the incident back over again. Or I can say, yes, I am satisfied, which will then close this particular request off of my list and move it to the closed environment. Also, I can provide updates on any of these records along the way, or if I choose to, I can allow the users to request to cancel incidents and or requests that aren't yet completed. I mentioned that we created this kind of CMS portal solution as a framework where we could apply different styles. So I wanted to kind of show you applying a different kind of customer look and feel on top of the framework. So here's an example report that we built using this exact same ServiceNow environment, but just apply different styles on top of those same components and features. And one of the things that we added to this that I think hits on some of the points that Don brought up was kind of going after those top items. So we've got a section here on the top that has I want to as well as find services. So I want to, these would be kind of the top things that I want to do. So set up email on my computer. Well, this takes me to a page that's got details about what I can set up or how to set up my Outlook and set up my kind of email on my computer. I've also got options here for looking for how do I check voicemail. I can see that. And some of these are knowledge articles, but some of them may also be taking me to a subset of things to request. Like I can go to get software, and it's going to take me to, here are the software items that I can request. And from here, I can slice and dice. Maybe I want to just look at those that are audio-visual. Maybe this is the software I really needed, and I can add or order this to my cart. On the services side, so kind of similar experience. I can go to all to begin with. And so these quick links, this shows me kind of my service taxonomy and my different classifications of services. And ultimately, the display of these services provides transparency to the customer and kind of clarifies those expectations. Also, these are in service or in customer-centric kind of language and, should provide a better means by which you can communicate with your consumers. So I can obviously browse this way, or I can browse kind of through A to Z list to find a service. Or I can also do a search for one. And one thing that's common when you're doing service definition is you may have various nomenclature terms that people use to define services. So I can maybe have an alias of VPN that really reflects private private token access, you know, and I might have SAP or I might have ERP that might represent kind of a procurement service. So I can use that as a way to help customers find things by different terms that are commonly used within the environment. So also up here, so I can also jump to services that are within a given category. So I can find services related to business applications, which shows me all the services related to business applications, but maybe I'm more interested in just those related to finance. And this is then going to take me to, you know, a service page related to, say, SAP Financials. And this page I can get information about the service, what's in scope, what's out of scope, what's its current health, as well as any feedback that's been provided to date, as well as the ratings. And this is where I would actually go to provide additional feedback and post my thoughts and information around that service. We show one more service on here as an example. So bond trading has one other tab here that wasn't on the SAP Financials, and that's related to offerings. And offerings is a way of having different flavors or variations of things that you provide in regards to this service. And I think the key part of offerings is the commitments that are being made. And these may be a set of attributes that say this is what you can expect when you get this particular service, or it could also be things that are measurable in the case of availability time or response time. One thing I wanted to mention before I close on showing the portal is this was set up to be, this is behind the scenes, set up to be able to configure things relatively easy and change on-off switches. So we have a set of property pages. I mentioned we had navigation tiles to drive what shows up in the front. There are also table definitions related to what records or what types of records show up in the search results. As well as in the consolidated status screen, what are the different types of records that show up in there, and what kind of attributes do we display to the user, all defined within these tables. So let me shift gears a little bit and talk about, you know, different customers have different perspectives on how to engage with their consumers, you know, through this portal. And I want to show you some recent other examples to portals that we've worked on with customers, just so you can get a sense of different look and feel, different ways to kind of present information to your consumers. So this is with this particular portal, you can see a lot of the same common elements we had in our framework, you know, in terms of navigation tiles and kind of a news scroller, but obviously presented in kind of the customer's colors and blends in with other sites used by that customer within their environment. This is more of a, you know, modern color scheme, a lot of grayscale with pops of color, blue and reds. And customer here is, the actual interesting part with this customer here is this is an actual external customer portal built on ServiceNow, so their actual paying customers come to this site to get information about their particular products, engage, you know, look for answers, engage with their support center, either through a chat as well as some more advanced features like scheduled callbacks and or self-guided help. Another example, kind of branded with the customer's kind of look and feel, built on our framework as well. And here's another customer that embraced kind of that metro style look and feel with the bright colors. Also notice that I think this is an interesting point for some of you going out there that looking to build portals. You'll see kind of the news section has a coming soon. I think that's, you know, also helpful to be able to build momentum of here's what I can kind of present to my customers now, but let's also put some placeholders in place to kind of show them where we're going and where we're headed and what they can expect as far as an interaction in the near term. A couple more examples. Here's one that doesn't use a lot of images, kind of follows more of a simplistic interface of you know, buttons and presentations, and a lot of what they're focused on is bubbling up the trending items, what's popular, what's kind of the top of the page. This is another screenshot from that same portal, kind of similar consolidated requests where they can interact with their records to approve, deny, provide feedback, acknowledge confirmation. Also a screenshot of kind of the responsive view of how this portal looks like. Another common trend that we see for a lot of these portals is kind of pushing towards the search. So you'll see this is an example here where the search is front and center, kind of more like a Google model, to where they're kind of pushing you to search. The other thing that I think goes on with this portal that's interesting is there's a sticky chat that's floating on the left, and you'll have this in all the pages. And this is really to try to drive and encourage more interaction via the chat. Similar consolidated check status screen with a slightly different look and feel, breaking these out into separate kind of tables or buckets, but also with the ability to kind of mass approve records, as well as you see kind of the FedEx tracking of your stages kind of in the open request area. I think one more after this. So I've got this another one that's similar with a kind of a front and center search. The results actually show up in more of a modal style display. Also, what you find on the home page here is kind of navigating the service tree or the service taxonomy tree to find the services, information about those services, and ultimately request those. Also, kind of shown here is the ability to kind of filter your results pretty quickly on just by type and find items that match Apple and order those items. Last portal example to show just here's another one that's kind of a little mix of kind of taking a front and center search, but also has more of a dashboard style look and feel in the home page with news information as well as announcements and other details to communicate the kind of status of things within the ecosystem to the consumers, and more of an overall intranet kind of feel. So that concludes kind of what I wanted to share today. I hope this was helpful and maybe spark some ideas on how to kind of create a powerful self-serve experience for your users, and maybe take some of these portal examples as ideas of things you might want to plug into your environments.
All right, great, Jeff. Thank you. So if you found this interesting and wonder, what might be a logical next step, here are a couple of options. If you have an interest in the sort of employee self-service portal that we demonstrated, our advanced version, I'm happy to say it's available now as a self-service demo. You can get your own login on our website. You can go to the home page and follow the banner, and you can get in there and play with it to your heart's content. If you're looking for a better way to organize and categorize services, and this is a pretty common problem because the complexity of a taxonomy is a big issue with organizing services. We tackled that and created a graphical service taxonomy designer that you can sort of see the pictorial if you're in the lower right-hand side. And it uses a pretty inexpensive mind mapping technology. It's easy to learn and use, works very well, and it's great for creating that taxonomy with your group that is driving it. And it facilitates decision-making, that sort of thing. If it looks at all of interest, you can access a short demo of it from our website as well. And last but not least, if you're considering a broader service catalog initiative but aren't sure, where to start, how to get your team all on the same page, we offer a one-day private service catalog workshop on your site which educates your team, uncovers key business drivers, and creates a logical, high-level roadmap for going forward. But we found that you can truly save months of effort in consensus building and get your program moving faster if that's something that's of interest. So that's all I have to talk about from that standpoint right now. And we're at our last slide here, and we'll open the microphone to questions here that may have come in.
Yep.
Steph?
Thanks, Don. Jeff, I'm going to start with some questions that I have for you. The first one is, will the CMS self-service portal upgrade to the latest version?
Yes, I mean that's our intent. So maybe a little backstory on what we've built as far as this CMS update set. We originally built it on Calgary, so we know it works on Calgary. We have also ported it to Dublin and Eureka. The other thing that we are actively involved with in regards to this is we are part of kind of an early access program for Fuji, as well as helping kind of build up applications in what's going to be an application store with the Fuji release. And this Metro-style CMS portal is going to be one of those scoped applications that you can download from the Fuji Apple Store, which is targeted to be released as part of Knowledge 15 this year. So that is something we're actively working on, moving this to Fuji, making it an application that will actually be available for download directly from their kind of new app store.
Okay, great, thanks. Jeff, another one for you. Do you find it difficult to get a customer to agree on the look and the feel?
I'd say for the most part, yes. And Don hit on this a little bit too, of kind of implanting customers into your kind of design and solution process. I think everyone has, and Don alluded to this too, everyone has personal preferences and bias, and I think the key is to kind of come up with a solution that is attractive to the majority, and also focus probably more on the function than, or kind of the making sure that the overall solution actually is beautiful from end to end in terms of serving the service needs. We do see a lot of our customers kind of go through pilots or prototypes to kind of build that consensus. I think the last point I would make too is that I wouldn't view the release of a new portal as a kind of a stopping point, right? I think I would look to drive continual feedback from your customers and kind of set up a model where you're doing continual service improvement to that portal and that solution as you would any other solution that you build.
Okay, great. And Jeff, how long does it take to set up a new CMS site?
This is probably the consultant answer. It can certainly vary. I will say, in terms of kind of our Metro-style CMS framework, dropping that into a ServiceNow environment is kind of a couple-hour kind of activity. In a lot of our customer cases, it's a matter of taking that and then making some minor style adjustments, and that satisfies the need. So I would say in most cases, our CMS projects kind of span a couple of weeks, but we have had some that span as long as a couple of months that are more looking for a more specific, tailored, custom solution.
Okay, thanks, Jeff. Don, for you, your perspective on the three constituents of a service is interesting. How do you use it in a practical application?
A practical application. Okay. What's really interesting about that is we actually designed it when we were doing some business process reengineering workshops for a client. And, the providers who we were working with were having a hard time understanding what we were trying to do in the interview process and what was our end game and our end goal. And we were able to make it clearer by defining the three constituents and the different perspectives of each constituent. It not only helped them to see things from the customer's perspective, which was great, but it made it clear to them that it had to be good for the providers too, or it wouldn't work at all. And that went a long way to get them to relax, right, and understand that it was something for them, not being done to them, and help to break down that change resistance.
Okay, great. Jeff, I have another question come in. As I read it, I'm thinking this one's probably best for you. Luke is asking me how to best transition a legacy service request portal to ServiceNow where the customer will have to use both during the transition period.
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously so there is an opportunity, I think, where you could create, a new self-service portal on ServiceNow and continue to do your fulfillment out of another back-end legacy system. It would necessitate kind of integrations, right? So you'd have to have integrations to be able to get kind of that, because I think you want your portal to be able to show current progression, current status, and the user to be able to interact with some of that status screen like I was showing to confirm resolution, provide updates, et cetera. So to do that, it would be a matter of having ServiceNow's records integrate back to the fulfillment system, and the fulfillment system, upon updates, pushing updates back into ServiceNow so that information is up to date. And I would say the same thing for some of the other content that might be in your portal, knowledge and so forth. There's certainly opportunities with these more modern platforms to be able to, federate information through web services. So in a lot of ways, we could have, when I go to like the knowledge page or go to the search page, I could be actually running, a web service request out to another system and rendering those results kind of natively through the portal.
Okay, thank you. This question came in from Remy. Probably either one of you could answer it. In a typical implementation project, what does the customer need to do up front to define their requirements so that the implementation goes more efficiently and effectively?
Why don't you take that one, Jeff? I'll go process on it.
Well, I was going to go process. In a lot of ways, obviously, a lot depends on first clarifying a lot of things you had hit on, Don, in your presentation, clarifying what is it that we're trying to accomplish, what are the goals, what are the business drivers, et cetera, and making sure that those are pretty well clearly understood and become the measuring stick of the success of the project. So that's kind of a starting point. I think when it comes to some of the particulars, say on the CMS portal, you know, a lot of the things we're looking for are kind of your culture. Are you a mobile-friendly, mobile-first kind of culture, or moving that direction? Are you, you know, does it need to be kind of something that blends in within a current SharePoint or intranet site? Do you have kind of marketing and style standards? So there's a lot of that information we'll kind of talk about up front. But ultimately, it still boils down to what is it that we're trying to achieve, and can, you know, what are some of those quick wins, and what are the goals, and making sure that the project aligns with that.
Yeah, and a lot of engagements are now starting with sort of a short roadmap exercise where we'll be engaged for between a week and two, and you lay out a longer-term roadmap, but then you have very specific, you know, objectives and goals in the short term to establish credibility, to build a win, to get traction. And, you know, that's one of the things about the ServiceNow platform, which is great, is that you can get a lot done in a hurry. You can make progress quickly. And so it's possible. And you don't take the same kind of risk you did in the old days in client server when you have to spend so much money to get to your first outcome. You know, and then it becomes more iterative and you can build on success. You know, that's a great difference.
Great, thanks guys. Another question for Don. Enabling employee self-service seems like the tip of a much larger iceberg. Is there any practical way to start small and then grow?
Yes, it is, and yes, you can. Creating a beautiful single employee self-service portal, you know, for what we were talking about here, for better interaction with IT, is a win you can stand on. I mean, it is something that makes a difference and that the customers really like, and it resonates with them. It can be done in a month, right? I mean, it's a pretty short time, but we have done it in a month for clients. One client we had last year, late in the year we did this, and the CIO came back and said it was the most impactful IT project the whole year. So you can do it. You can get a victory in a short period of time. Again, that's part of this new world that's really nice. But then you can also add services that matter as you can, right? And you can improve your sticky services, things like that, iteratively. So once the traction begins, once you've got something that's substantive enough to stand on, then you begin to move it.
Okay, great. Thanks, Don. I'm looking. I don't see any more questions. I'll give folks, oh, I'm sorry. Let's see. Does the portal have multi-language options, such as choose your language?
The answer is yes. So we do. And a lot of it's more of kind of how you, or that's the mentality we had in terms of building the actual framework. So we did build all of the kind of dynamic components using kind of message records. So any labels or validation messages use message records, which then makes it to where it can be supported multilingual or multi-language. You know, there is the login page does have an option for kind of choosing language if multi-language is enabled in the instance.
Okay. And Andrew is asking, please repeat the 80-20 rule. Not sure who mentioned that.
Oh, that was me.
Yeah.
So, I use that a lot, you know, so it's it could be multiple contexts. But what I was focused on today was that, you know, the Pareto principle, which 80% of what matters can be found in 20% of the sample size. And so when you go to find the services that are good candidates for automating and putting into a portal and making self-service driven, you know, they're going to pop up. 80% of the stuff that's really valuable will be found in 20% of the services. In fact, one of our clients said it was kind of funny that they had 28 services in a portal that they had built. And they said that was great, but 6 of them accounted for 85%. Okay? And so that's not really too far off, right? If you think 80-20, it's pretty close, right? And that was the proof, that the volume is usually not in a huge number. And the good thing about that is that finite number allows you to make a huge impact on a pretty small sample size.
Okay, great. All right, taking one quick look. I am getting some last-minute questions here. Bear with me as I locate them here. And while I'm doing that, I will mention that I will be sending the link out to the webinar and the slides by tomorrow afternoon. And let's see, Robert is asking, what is the cost model for the solution? Is it based on the cost per user?
So the answer is no, it's not based on the cost per user. If you're talking about the employee self-service portal, we do sell it as an update set. And our philosophy behind these things is to help our clients create solutions that are durable and valuable, right? And that sounds kind of strange, but we're not purely a software company. We're not a services company. We're doing what we call solutioning. And so the ESS portal is available at a $12,500 per year cost, and we do sell it like a SaaS footprint because we've got to provide the upgrade support, we've got to provide the user administration, we've got to provide the customer support and call and that sort of thing. So it's meant to be very affordable. That's the idea behind it. And then we help to get, our goal obviously is to engage with clients and help them get on this journey of transforming the interaction with their customers. So all of the things we're going to create, we'll try to price in a way that you feel is very affordable. That's the idea behind it.
Okay, great. Thanks, Don. All right, I don't see any other questions coming in. So again, you all will receive an email from me no later than tomorrow with a link to the webinar recording and a link to download the slides. So I want to thank you all for attending. We do have another webinar coming out in 2 weeks, so please visit the resources page at evergreensys.com, and you can get more information on that event and register as well. Thank you.